Hare Krishna, welcome to Krishna Book Part 2. Just like Srila Prabhupada's printing of Krishna Book, the first printing was, I think, in 3 parts. So we're starting our second cohort, and we're going to start with the 30th chapter. That happens to be where we left off. We finished up to chapter 29. We're going to pick up the 30th chapter of the Krishna Book. And as we always do, as we've received the guidance from those who've done it before us, we're going to start with chanting Krishna's names. So we're going to have some kirtan. And then we're going to get into some reflections of what we've experienced leading up to now. We've had a few weeks off, so we've all been missing. Eileen was saying, I really felt the void. Yeah. Yeah, the hearing and chanting is a very, very special thing. And then when you do it consistently, you start to realize that you really want to keep doing it. So we feel the same way, and that's why we're back.
Even if you're reading the same books over and over.
It is.
It's like doing it together is.
The Krishna book is the book I've read more than any other book at this point by Srila Prabhupada, the Bhakti Shastra, and I don't want to stop. So we'll get to it. But first we're going to chant Krishna's names.
Okay, Haribol sweet souls, welcome back. Come into your comfortable seats. Let's just take a deep breath together to clear away what was and to drop into what is here now. Take a deep breath in, fill up. Exhale, let it go. We start with these opening prayers, this invocation, honoring our teachers and opening ourselves up to be little receptacles of knowledge and mercy, filled with gratitude. Deep breath in.
Hi, Krishna.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Nitai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gora Hari Bol,
Yeah, they just
Hari
yeah, they
Bol.
just closed it.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Shri Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki, Shri Shri Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki, Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Brahma Bhakti Sangha and beyond ki, Shastra Study Group ki, Hari Hari Bol.
Jai. Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Vanchakalpatarupyascha Kripasantubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Welcome back to the Krishna book, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so I think everybody here, almost everybody, was in the last cohort or has read Krishna book, and so little life update. We had a Bhakti Yoga festival, week-long Bhakti Yoga festival with lead up, with several events, including Kishori and Gopi and I getting married to each other, and by a peer devotee, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, who actually hosted several events, and many of you who are listening to this did an amazing amount of service, enormous amount of service. It was really beautiful to see. It was like bees in a hive, and just the results and the atmosphere was palpable. I mean, so many people who have no experience with bhakti commented that it was different than any other wedding they'd ever been to. The programs, the hearing and chanting brought people in who had never heard the hearing and chanting before. So that's what's happened in the meantime last few weeks, and we took a little time to kind of reset, and we're back. But we've all been reading, and I think the hearing and chanting has been going on throughout, as it was for us. So any reflections we have from these last few weeks of service, from the service, can be inspired by that, and definitely from the Krishna book. We'll open the floor up now. I think just a reminder, we just started the section of Bhagavatam where Krishna and his relationship with the gopis is described in a more direct way. There's a little bit of that earlier, in chapter 21 or so. The gopis, they hear Krishna's flute song, and they offer prayers from a distance. And now, they had prayed to have him as a husband, and now that's coming to fruition. Is that they're actually having this loving feeling for him, the supreme person in the mode of Madhurya, the conjugal love, that pure spiritual expression of that is being described. So that's where we're at, and we'll open up. What do you all remember? What's reflecting in your hearts and minds?
I'll speak. Oh, sorry.
No, you're gonna.
I goes to the runner. In this case, the runner is the online.
All right, Haribol, welcome back.
Thank you. Welcome back to you.
Thank you. Got confused for a second. I was just thinking when you were just talking about the gopis, I I think that Krishna book is more sort of overtly and explicitly and sort of, I don't want to say sexual is the wrong word because that sounds gross. But like, you know what I'm saying? It's like descriptive language talking about what's happening. Um
Personal. It's very personal. It's like,
Personal.
it's like the difference between addressing the Supreme Person as, oh, Supreme Source, oh my Lord, versus, oh, son of Yashoda, oh, beautiful Krishna, right? Um, the difference between knowing somebody's nickname, their pet name. Everybody here has, I think,
Hmm.
nicknames that people in their lives have called them. If you're walking down the street anywhere in the world, you can be walking down the street in Bangkok, Thailand, and someone says, call out your nickname from any back alley, any window, you're like, what? So who knows me? So yeah, Krishna book is very personal. Is that these are the personal pastimes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess Bhagavatam is really the first time really I ever heard that kind of um yeah, even just down to, the demon killings and fighting and all of that stuff. It's very, I feel like you would never know that that really stuff kind of really existed if you
Mm,
weren't going deeper into it, because you might just like read the Bhagavad Gita or something like that and just think it's all chariots and
yeah.
have no attachments, but really there's so much, it's like a real history. It's amazing.
Thank you. Great reflection. Yeah, the personalism is really standing out. And Krishna book is that's a big reason why Srila Prabhupada paused translating the Bhagavatam as he was doing it verse by verse, was to give us Krishna book, because that's the 10th canto Bhagavatam, and give it in a way that it's really couched in the philosophy, so it's presented in a like safe, approachable way. So that two things would happen. One is that we have access to Krishna in his intimate feature of how he's relating to those who are closest to him, his pure devotees. And also that it's done in a way that we can actually start to approach that no matter where we're at, whether we're on the level of having pure devotion for Krishna or not. I mean, the Krishna book was distributed on the street as early as 1971 or two, to anybody, anyone and everybody. So the way Prabhupada presents it is in a language and in a way where it's with the philosophy attached too. So it's like one doesn't misunderstand Krishna as a material living being. And so both things are there. And that's an incredibly powerful dose of spiritual medicine that Prabhupada wanted us to have. And all of our acharyas have pointed out is really important to have, to deepen our relationship with Krishna, that we can actually view him as so lovable, so personal. So because without that, it can become abstract, it can become theoretical. Even Bhagavad Gita, which is actually very personal, is a description of Krishna talking to his dear friend. But because it's all these ideas, you're not your body, and like, reincarnation, it can kind of be up here. A lot of it, depending on how we view it, can just be like ideas and brain candy, or like I'm supposed to understand it, and that's there. But then, here's Krishna stealing monkey butter and feeding it to the monkeys. It's like, what do you have to understand about that? He's a rascal. He's making people laugh. He's a joker. It's fun. And there's a different access point. Ultimately,
I just thought of something as you were speaking too. I love that word rascal. In the beginning, in like book one of Srimad Bhagavatam, I can't remember if it's in the purport or the actual text. Somewhere somebody says, "Don't skip ahead, like
yeah.
ever." Does that apply in terms of like, all right, I'm gonna have to go because I hear the children screaming. But does that apply to like, can you kind of fast forward to book 10 and, or is, I mean, I'm doing it, but
Yeah. Great question. I think we may have addressed this way back at the very beginning, but it's definitely relevant, especially because we're restarting now.
I think I asked it before.
Yeah. Srila Prabhupada set the example by advising that we don't try to read haphazardly from Bhagavatam and not jump ahead. And at the same time, also giving us Krishna book and instituting the reading of Krishna book, even as early as it was released. It was in the temples and in his International Society for Krishna Consciousness, being read, often read really late at night, just before people go to bed, because it's really sweet to just kind of meditate on Krishna's pastimes and hopefully dream of him. So the idea there is that we're operating under guidance. You know, sometimes that instruction, which is there from our teachers, is there because one of the main reasons is because historically sometimes people have tried to skip other pastimes of Krishna, like, you know, the fighting pastimes or the pastimes in Kurukshetra or with this devotee or that devotee, and just jump as if they're trying to create like a hierarchy. Well, actually, his Vrindavan pastimes are very intimate, so I'm just going to listen to that, right? And that's not appropriate, right? It's not actually appropriate to decide you only want to hear a certain kind of thing about Krishna, because that's based on a material misunderstanding that actually this stuff is spiritual, this stuff is material, right? And that's actually been a problem historically in this movement, but also in other movements, is that some people approach spiritual life very cheaply. The word in Sanskrit is sahajaya, which means to take things very cheaply. Is that actually somebody that with that perspective will say, well, okay, here's Krishna dancing with young women, and that's spiritual. So maybe like my desire to dance with other men's wives, that's also spiritual. Of course, on paper, just looking at it in black and white, it sounds insane, because it is. It's nonsense. It's just trying to like butter up your own, pretty up your own material desires. People have misused this side of Krishna, his actual intimate, personal pastimes, especially with the gopis, to prop up their own, frankly, bad behavior. And it looks really bad because they do it under the umbrella of Bhakti Yoga or like Lord Chaitanya's movement, and it gives it a bad name. And so to protect that misappropriation, the movement from that misappropriation, our guides and gurus and mentors have said, that's not okay. You can't just do that. You can't misuse the philosophy to prop up your own material desires. And you can't misunderstand his other activities as material, thinking that this is spiritual in Vrindavan, but oh, when he's talking to the Bhagavad Gita, that's just material. No. So as long as we're not operating with those misunderstandings, that's good. And especially because the way Krishna book is presented by Srila Prabhupada deliberately, as we've said, he couches all the activities of Krishna in the philosophy. He's presenting it like the two are side by side. When you read Krishna book, there's usually like a paragraph of that. Krishna said this is what happened, this is the feelings people had, and then his Prabhupada saying, now this is just like in the material world, blah, 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 give an analogy, or he'll explain with reference to Bhagavad Gita or other teachers what's actually happening so we don't misunderstand it. That's the role of an acharya. That's the role of a great teacher, is that he's thinking, who's my audience? Where are we going? How can I get them there? How can I get them to understand? So as a teacher, he has done that and is continuing to do that. So Krishna book is a special book that way. It's an example of taking something out of its context and presenting it in a way that's understandable. The same thing he did with Light of the Bhagavad. He took a section of the 10th canto out of context, presented it in the context of, there's a Japanese, what was it called? Like a conference on the human spirit, cultivating the human spirit. What does Bhagavatam say about cultivating the human spirit? How can I help them understand that? And so he offered purports based on that nature chapter, so that people with zero context in the middle of Japan would be able to receive the wisdom of Bhakti Yoga and Krishna's personal pastimes in a way that made sense to them, and would A, be interested in hearing it and seeing it as relevant to their human spirit cultivation conference, and B, actually make spiritual advancement in doing so. So that's a tightrope he walked. And the fact that we read it years later in translation, after it had not even been released, shows, and we still were so touched by it, shows how successful that attempt was. So it's a great question. I hope that answered for you. Looks like it did. And then we had Aliyah, I think, and then Kishore.
No, go ahead.
I was simply going to say that, reading the Krishna book, it's the sweetness of being able to fall in love with Krishna as a person, as Bhagavan. Because, if you're falling in love with someone or you're courting someone, you need to learn about them and what they do, what they like. And we really learn that in reading Krishna book. And we spoke about how, we spoke about the demons that he slayed and liberated when he killed them. And, that these great devotees and also demons make offenses and fall, but they're not because they're fallen. It's because
it's like mercy for us,
Mm.
right? To teach us a lesson or to point out an anartha, an unwanted part of our own mind and ego. And so, you know, I find that the Krishna book is both reading it and rereading it helps me fall more in love with Krishna
Mm.
and helps me to up level, I think is how we were talking about it. And to look at those parts in myself of like, oh, where do I have that demoniac nature? Where is my ego leading in this way? And then to really get to reflect on that and see how I can then make shifts, take action on that in my life, and then also chant japa and pray and
Yeah.
for mercy and such to overcome that. So it's twofold, like falling in love and learning more about the anarthas that exist within all of us.
Yeah. And even in this very intimate section, the last thing we read was about how the gopis were starting to feel a little proud because they had this such deep connection with Krishna. They felt like the most fortunate people, and they felt like I have exclusive access to him, and therefore he stepped away, at least temporarily. And I mean, I'm not at that level of spiritual advancement that I have that kind of intimate relationship with Krishna, but I am definitely a target audience for hearing about becoming proud. And so there is that thing in the pastimes. And so Prabhupada took it out a little bit and talked about it just briefly, and he may talk about it more. And so that's always there. If we're hearing that mood of this sound vibration is to help me get closer to Krishna and also to show me how to not pull myself farther away from him.
Right.
What the obstacles or distractions are from bhakti yoga and pure connection with him, then those things will come up all the time. Even in these kinds of sections, that's always going to be there. Thanks. Eileen.
So, I was actually, I'll build up of what Kishori just said, that, you know, our ultimate goal in this is to surrender to Krishna, right?
Yeah.
And you can't surrender to someone you don't know, or like to
Yeah.
someone you don't love, or somebody that you completely trust. And so, you know, by spending time with Krishna, learning about his upbringing and learning how his most favored devotees serve him, we then get to know him. And then, so we kind of tying it to something different, but as you mentioned, we just went through this beautiful month with both of you, month plus. And, you know, by kind of bringing what we're doing in the Krishna book and kind of learning how to serve Krishna, and then, you know, when you framed your wedding, you're like, this is an opportunity to bring bhakti to people. Like, and I just thought that was the most beautiful thing that you guys could have said, because it just frames it in just such a different mood. And so, you know, in serving the devotees and serving Guru and you know, bringing Krishna consciousness to other people, like you form this closer bond to Krishna. So like having the background stories and understanding like how he just challenges devotees and he jokes with his devotees and he intimately loves his devotees, and then to be able to kind of like use that example in real practice. And you guys really gave us the opportunity to do that over the past month and a half, and really helped us be around people who want to talk about Krishna and who, you know, want to grow in all of this. So I think it was just kind of a beautiful way to kind of just come together and put this into practice. So
Yeah.
thank you for both of those.
Thank you. Hopefully you could all hear that. Can I get a thumbs up? Okay, great. Yeah, my reflection on that is that, what I'm hearing is that the experience of hearing is really powerful, and also putting it in practice, that you had a tangible, and I heard that reflection from many people. I also had that experience myself, of the tangible experience of co-serving together, like applying the philosophy of like cooperation for Krishna's pleasure, for whether it was the wedding or this program that was in this room, that Sunday Nrsingadeva's appearance day, or that program or this program, this offering, these flowers for Krishna, these mantras, the Brahma Samhita we sang, all the things that happened, that's the philosophy in practice. And so
all the food that I need.
Yeah, all the food that was cooked and offered to Krishna, everything is an application of the philosophy. And so you're reflecting, like, it was so tangible to feel like putting that in practice really moved your heart. Thank you.
In the act of serving, you completely get out of your head.
Yeah.
And you're completely in your heart. So like you are no longer like, you know, in that kind of material, self-absorbed, egotistic kind of mood. You really, in through service, that happiness really comes through, whether you're exhausted or whether whatever, like, but you're really like this unbelievable like happiness that doesn't come from anything else kind of stirs up. And I think, you know, we see that in the gopis, and God, we can only strive to be a millionth of what that looks like, but it's like, okay, that's what they feel like. And we got to experience it in a little bit.
Yeah. You transcended the cage of the material body with your service. Beautiful. Mel.
You know, I've been thinking for the last few weeks about this whole idea of just how consuming the material world can be sometimes. And like really thinking about how like when you're in it, you're in it. And it's just like so much of this path is like about obviously learning to serve and really serving like completely selflessly and like really learning what like devotional service is. And but yet that draw of the material world is so strong, right? It just pulls you right back in. Like Maya can just like pull you right back in so easily. And I've just been really thinking about that. And then when reflecting about the rasa dance and how the gopis just abandoned their material lives and they went to Krishna, right? They weren't even they didn't even, some of them didn't finish their makeup or you know whatever. They just like went. They didn't care. And I think that's just really, really beautiful. There was a line in here somewhere, I don't know where it is now, but it was something, it said something about like how like Krishna consciousness does that to you. Essentially, it like Krishna consciousness like helps you to like not have to have like be consumed by the material world or something like that. There's a line about that somewhere in here. And I think for me, it's just like to think about what Krishna consciousness means, to be conscious of Krishna, to live in that way, to not be so conscious in my material life. And so I've just been really thinking about that and, you know, the role of service and how it's all so important when you're really, really you're going to like come to Krishna when he calls for you. So
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about that.
Thank you. Great reflection. Yeah, because we're not trying to run away from those things, and at the same time, they're always there. When you're in it, you're in it. You know, and wherever you go, there you are. You can't just like try to go to a mountaintop or Hawaii or anywhere else in the universe to get away from the material tabernacle. It's always just part of life, and so Krishna consciousness means being conscious of Krishna, and that practice of connecting whatever we're doing to him and being ready to receive that call and respond to it whenever it comes. So the gopis, it came with a flute song, and yeah, for all of us, we're just training for that. Yeah. Any others before we, Tanya?
Yeah, I just want to reflect that, you know, it's so interesting, especially, you know, being is involved in the wedding and, you know, near Guru and Guru Ma and just being in that environment and in association with everyone. I was already, you know, pretty addicted to Shastra and wanting to dive deeper and do more. And now I feel like I'm just like binge listening, binge reading, and every single moment, that's what I want to do, you know, and it's really, it's interesting because, you know, I just don't, like all the Shastra has said in all the books that we've read, you lose your taste for some of those material things as you get more and more attracted to this relationship with Krishna. And I think it's just been enlightening and wonderful, and I literally can't get enough of it. And one thing I want to mention as well is, you know, we're driving home. It took us a long time to drive home because of all the floods and all the roads. So as we were driving home, you know, Frank was asking a lot of questions, and you know, we're reading the Gita together now because he was, you know, expressing some interest, and being able to help explain it myself because I've been exposed to it enough through these classes and through your, you know, tutelage. It feels really good to realize, hey, I really do know this material, and this is really nice to share it that way. So just another thank you to all of you.
Yeah. Getting addicted to hearing and chanting, and also that Krishna is giving you opportunities to share with others. Thank you. Don't mind that I'm moving around. The sun is more powerful than I am. Actually, I can still view the screen, but I might have a glare during the class, but just naming it. Julia.
Hi, Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I just wanted to also express personal gratitude for just being able to be a part of the wedding and to serve and to be in such sweet and powerful association. It really was like so divinely like opportunistic, but in a way that felt really spiritual and not material, which was like a very like it felt like it was a very clear difference, which was really cool. Um, but also something I think one of my biggest takeaways from that experience was just how everything shifts when you put Krishna at the center. And for you guys to, of course, naturally have Krishna at the center of your wedding, it really felt like the ripple effect was like a Krishna tsunami. It was so awesome. And I've really been feeling that since that weekend and that week. And I feel like my biggest takeaway is it was like to be of service at the wedding, it was like some of the most fun I've ever had. And it just felt really, that felt really true and really clear. And before I had left, I was speaking with Srinivas and kind of inquiring with him around Krishna and how Krishna plays and how we're reading his Leela and really feeling like, Krishna gets to play. That's what he does, and that's what we're reading about. And I was really sitting with like, how does Krishna want us to play? Like, how can we play? I don't say like Krishna, but in a way that's appropriate for us. And I really felt like I kind of turned this corner with the service experience of like, oh wow, when we are actively engaged in service, that's how it can feel like play. Um, and I'm just so grateful to have been able to have felt that and integrating and embodying that because our service and my service, it gets to feel like play. And if it doesn't, then I think that there's an opportunity for a shift because I feel like, yeah, Krishna wants our service to feel devotional and playful.
Jai. Yeah. Speaking for, I know I speak for Kishore that we felt also just so grateful for you talking about like when it happened the way it did because we put Krishna in the middle. But what we all experienced was everyone putting Krishna in the middle, and the cumulative effect was tangible by everybody. And we're definitely as much as anybody just swept away by that tsunami effect of everyone's. It was absolutely palpable. And the playfulness, the joy thing, it reminds me of something His Holiness Devamrita Swami said. He said, when we see Krishna, we see he has a flute. He's playing the flute. And what that tells us is he's all play and no work. Krishna is God at home. Krishna is God just for fun. And bhakti yoga is the lifestyle of that connection of fun and play. It's a free exchange of love. It's not, the spiritual world is not a place of obligation and duty. There's a free exchange of love. And then when we enter that flow where we're like freely giving, then what you experience is exactly like that's a taste of what we're actually that's our spiritual birthright, is to be in that place of consciously freely giving ourselves and receiving Krishna in the association of like-minded souls who want that, and that association is really actually crucially important. It's that's where these things happen. That's where these festivals happen. Is like when devotees get together. It's like the sankirtan, the cumulative effect. It's like the bigger a kirtan is, the more it touches your heart because everyone's bhakti is just pouring out of their mouths and hearts. And so what we all experienced was a co-creation of a festival. It was a festival for Krishna, a festival of dining and dancing and flowers and mantras, all according to the ways that we understand Krishna is pleased. None of it was concocted. And so those activities performed in that devotional community and that devotional attention created that effect. So, yeah, thank you. Ditto, as they say. Ditto. If that's it, we will go to get the Krishna book. Start with the invocation that Prabhupada gave us. Krishna. The invocation is at the very beginning of the introduction.
Yeah.
And Mel wrote, I found the line that she was referring to, quote, Krishna consciousness is so powerful that it gives everyone relief from all material activities. Excellent quote. The invocation's in the introduction.
Page 1.
Page 1. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna He. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna He. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rakshama. Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Pahima. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rakshama. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahima. Jai, Krishna Bhakti Jai. Krishna Book chapter 30. Krishna is hiding from the gopis. When Krishna suddenly disappeared from the company of the gopis, they began to search for him everywhere. After not finding him anywhere, they became afraid and almost mad after him. They were simply thinking of the pastimes of Krishna in great love and affection. Being absorbed in thought of him, they experienced loss of memory, and with dampened eyes, they began to see the very pastimes of Krishna, his beautiful talks with them, his embracing, kissing, and other activities. Being so attracted to Krishna, they imitated his dancing, his walking, and his smiling as if they themselves were Krishna. Due to Krishna's absence, they all became crazy. Each one of them told the others that she was Krishna himself. Soon they all assembled together and chanted Krishna's name very loudly as they moved from one part of the forest to another, searching for him. Actually, Krishna is all-pervasive. He is in the sky, and he is in the forest. He is within the heart, and he is always everywhere. The gopis therefore began to question the trees and plants about Krishna. There were various types of big trees and small plants in the forest, and the gopis addressed them. Dear banyan tree, have you seen the son of Maharaj Nanda passing this way, laughing and playing on his flute? He has stolen our hearts and gone away. If you have seen him, kindly inform us which way he has gone. Dear Ashoka tree, dear Naga flower tree and Champaka flower tree, have you seen the younger brother of Balaram pass this way? He has disappeared because of our pride. End quote. The gopis were aware of the reason for Krishna's sudden disappearance. They could understand that when they had been enjoying Krishna, they thought themselves to be the most fortunate women within the universe, and since they were feeling proud, Krishna had disappeared immediately just to curb their pride. Krishna does not like his devotees to be proud of their service to him. He accepts everyone's service, but he does not like one devotee to proudly consider himself better than others. If sometimes there are such feelings, Krishna ends them by changing his attitude toward the devotee. One time, Srila Prabhupada, just on a somewhat related note, it was described to Srila Prabhupada the mode of service of Saint Francis of Assisi, who was famous for referring to like brother sun, sister moon, the flowers, the birds. He would converse with these natural elements because he saw them as connected. And Prabhupada said, yes, this is real Krishna consciousness. He interrupted the speaker, one of his disciples, that this is real Krishna consciousness, is that everything reminds you of the Supreme Beloved in everyone. Now, normally, if somebody is actually holding a conversation with a bunny rabbit or a plant or the moon, they're either kind of like in a childish space or they're a little bit deranged. But it's also the case that very spiritually advanced persons may show that symptom. The gopis are doing that because they're just kind of, spiritually speaking, they're crazy. They've lost their balance because of missing Krishna so much. So this is a kind of it's not like just poetic behavior or whatever. They're actually experiencing spiritual emotions and it's manifesting in this way.
I just wanted to mention I put the database in the chat, like for anyone who doesn't have the book yet. Will you
Yeah,
just say that?
the link to the chapter we're reading and the book is in the chat.
Yeah.
The gopis then looked upon the ground they were traversing and began to address the earth. Dear earthly planet, we do not know how many penances and austerities you have undergone to be now living with the footprints of Lord Krishna upon you. You are very jolly. The hairs on your body are these jubilant trees and plants. Lord Krishna must have been very much pleased with you. Otherwise, how could he have embraced you in the form of Varaha, the boar? When you were submerged in water, he delivered you, taking the whole weight of your existence on his tusks. That's a reference to a pastime in Canto 3, where Krishna comes as Varahadev, a transcendental boar, large pig, and he actually picks up the earth, which is dislodged from its orbit, and saves it. After addressing the innumerable trees and plants in the earth, they turn their faces toward the beautiful deer, who are looking at them very pleasingly. It appears, they address the deer, that Krishna, who is the supreme Narayana himself, must have passed through this way along with his companion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. Otherwise, how is it possible that the aroma of his garland, which is smeared with the red kumkuma from the breasts of the goddess of fortune, can be perceived in the breeze blowing here? It appears that they must have passed through here and touched your bodies, and thus you are feeling so pleasant and are looking toward us with sympathy. Speaking to the deer. Will you kindly therefore inform us which way Krishna has gone? Krishna is the well-wisher of Vrindavan. He is as kind to you as to us. Therefore, after leaving us, he must have been present in your company. O fortunate trees, we are thinking of Krishna, the younger brother of Balaram. While passing through here with one hand resting on the shoulder of the goddess of fortune, and the other hand twirling a lotus flower, he must have been very pleased to accept your obeisances, and he must have glanced at you with great pleasure. Some of the gopis then addressed their gopi friends. Dear friends, why don't you question these creepers who are so jubilantly embracing the big trees as if the trees were their husbands? It appears that the flowers of the creepers must have been touched by the nails of Krishna. Otherwise, how could they feel so jubilant? After searching for Krishna here and there, the gopis became fatigued, and they began to talk like madwomen. They could satisfy themselves only by imitating the different pastimes of Krishna. One of them imitated the demon Putana, and one of them imitated Krishna and sucked her breast. Remember, Putana was a demon who came as a nurse, the form of a nurse, and Krishna accepted the milk. She had actually poisoned her own breast to kill Krishna because she was an assassin, and Krishna sucked out her milk, sucked out her life, and liberated her. But all these pastimes were things that everyone in Vrindavan had experienced, seeing Krishna growing up. One gopi imitated a hand-driven cart, and another gopi lay down beneath the cart and threw up her legs, touching the wheels of the cart, as Krishna did to kill the demon Shakatasura. One gopi imitated child Krishna and lay down on the ground, and one gopi became the demon Trinavarta and carried the small child Krishna by force into the sky. And one of the gopis began to imitate Krishna while he was attempting to walk, ringing his ankle bells. Two gopis imitated Krishna and Balaram, and many others imitated their cowherd boyfriends. One gopi assumed the form of Bakasura, and another forced her to fall down, as the demon Bakasura did when he was killed. Similarly, another gopi defeated Vatsasura. Just as Krishna used to call his cows by their different names, so the gopis imitated him, calling the cows by their respective names. One of the gopis began to play on a flute, and another praised her the way Krishna's boyfriends praised him while he played on his flute. One of the gopis took another gopi on her shoulders, just as Krishna used to take his boyfriends. Absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, the gopi who was carrying her friend began to boast that she was Krishna herself. All of you, just see my movement. One of the gopis raised her hand with her covering garments and said, now don't be afraid of the torrents of rain and severe hurricanes. I'll save you. In this way, she imitated the lifting of Govardhan Hill. One gopi forcibly put her feet on the head of another gopi and said, you rascal Kalia, I shall punish you severely. That was the many-headed serpent demon who lived in the Yamuna temporarily. I shall punish you severely. You must leave this place. I have descended to this earth to punish all kinds of miscreants. Another gopi told her friends, just see, the flames of the forest fire are coming to devour us. Please close your eyes, and I shall immediately save you from this imminent danger. These are all pastimes that we've all heard because the Krishna book is chronological. Krishna's pastimes one after the other. So these are all things that the gopis were present for, either directly or they heard about it like that day when it happened. They were all the news of Vrindavan. In this way, all the gopis were madly feeling the absence of Krishna. They inquired about him from the trees and plants. In some places, they found the imprints of the marks on the soles of his feet, namely the flag, the lotus flower, the trident, the thunderbolt, etc. Just as a reminder, Krishna's feet are actually marked transcendentally. For example, there's an indentation that looks like a lotus flower. There's a mark that looks like a flag, and each one of these has been analyzed by the acharyas for different explanations of what they represent. But his feet are actually different than other normal feet, and his footprints leave the mark. After seeing those footprints, they exclaimed, "Oh, here is the impression of the marks on the soles of Krishna's feet. All the marks, such as the flag, the lotus flower, the trident, and the thunderbolt, are distinctly visible here." They began to follow the footprints, and shortly they saw another set of footprints beside them, and immediately they became very sorry. "Dear friends, just see. Whose are these other footprints? They are beside the footprints of the son of Maharaj Nanda. It is certainly Krishna passing through, resting his hand on some other gopi, exactly as an elephant goes side by side with his beloved mate." We must therefore understand that this particular gopi served Krishna with greater affectionate love than ourselves. Because of this, although he has left us, he could not leave her company. He has taken her along with him. Dear friends, just imagine how the dust of this place is transcendently glorious. The dust of the lotus feet of Krishna is worshipped even by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva and the goddess of fortune Lakshmi. But at the same time, we are very sorry that this particular gopi has gone along with Krishna, for she is sharing the nectar of Krishna's kisses and leaving us aside to lament. Oh friends, just see. At this particular spot, we do not see the footprints of that gopi. It appears that because there were some pinpricks from the dried grass, Krishna took Radharani on his shoulder. Oh, she is so dear to him. Krishna must have picked some flowers in this spot to satisfy Radharani, because here, where he stood erect to get the flowers from the high branches of the tree, we find only half the impression of his feet. Dear friends, just see how Krishna must have sat down here with Radharani and tried to set flowers in her hair. You can be certain that both of them sat together here. End quote. Krishna is self-sufficient. He has nothing to enjoy from any other source. Yet, just to satisfy his devotee, he treated Radharani exactly as a lusty boy treats his girlfriend. Krishna is so kind that he always tolerates the disturbances created by his girlfriends. In this way, all the gopis pointed out the faults of the particular gopi who had been taken alone by Krishna. They said that this chief gopi, Radharani, must be very proud of her position, thinking herself the greatest of the gopis. Yet how could Krishna take her away alone, leaving all of us aside, unless she is extraordinarily qualified and beautiful? She must have taken Krishna into the deep forest and told him, "My dear Krishna, I am now very tired. I cannot go any further. Please carry me wherever you like." When Krishna was spoken to in this way, he might have told Radharani, "All right, better get on my shoulder." But immediately Krishna must have disappeared, and now Radharani must be lamenting to him. Lamenting for him. Radharani must be lamenting for him. "My dear lover, my dearest, you are so fine and so powerful. Where have you gone? I am nothing but your most obedient maidservant. I am very much aggrieved. Please come and be with me again." Krishna, however, is not coming to her. He must be watching her from a distant place and enjoying her sorrow. All the gopis then went further and further into the forest, searching out Krishna. But when they learned that actually Radharani was left alone by Krishna, they became very sorry. This is the test of Krishna consciousness. In the beginning, they were a little envious that Krishna had taken Radharani alone, leaving aside all the other gopis. But as soon as they knew that Krishna had also left Radharani and that she was alone lamenting for him, they became more sympathetic to her. The gopis found Radharani and heard everything from her about how she had misbehaved with Krishna and how she was proud and was insulted for her pride. After hearing all this, they actually became very sympathetic. Then all the gopis, including Radharani, proceeded further into the forest until they could no longer see the moonlight. When they saw that it was getting gradually darker, they stopped. Their mind and intelligence became absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. They all imitated the activities of Krishna and his speeches. Due to their heart and soul being completely given to Krishna, they began to chant his glories, completely forgetting their family interests. In this way, all the gopis returned to the bank of the Yamuna and assembled there. Expecting that Krishna must return to them, they simply engaged in chanting the glories of Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 30th chapter of Krishna, Krishna's hiding from the gopis. Haribol. Wow. All right. Any reflections, comments, questions from that before we go into chapter 31?
I have a real brief little one.
Yeah.
So for people who have been to like dramas in the temple or in festivals, this actually gives a really cool, sweet mood about it that I didn't have. Like I've participated in one, and it's like, oh, like that's what the gopis are doing. They're like doing dramas because they feel separated from Krishna. They want to remember Krishna.
Yeah.
They want to see Krishna, so they're acting it out. And I just thought that that's really cool. Like that connection's deep.
Yeah, it was them like just exhibiting their missing him. It wasn't that they actually thought they were Krishna. It was just like, what do you do when the person you love is gone? You know? Like if you think about it, even in the material context, you go a little crazy. You just kind of like sit there morose, or thinking about them. Everything you see reminds you of them. You know, they were in that space, but spiritually speaking, and you know, thousands of times more than anything we've experienced, their separation. They were with him face to face, dancing, and then he left. And so the arts are actually aspects of Krishna's Shakti. It's described in the Brahma Samhita. And it will be described later in the Krishna book. All the arts and all forms of crafts and cultural expressions, they take their root in being perfectly used to express Krishna's glories. For example, music. Every single culture in the world, in the history of human culture, has had music, right? With your voice, with instruments, different things. And they say music's the universal language, right? That's one thing they say about it. And so all of the different raga in Indian classical musical education, the ragas are like scales or modes. For those who've studied Western theory on music, they're a little more complicated because there's actually more of them than there are scales and modes. There's actually several thousand, but it's described that every raga is unique to a certain emotional flavor. They're all very subtly different. Sometimes they're different ascending, they are descending. There's different. So they're all like different expressions of emotional experience. And they're not just about somebody missing, you know, their dog or their dog died or this or that material thing. They ultimately take their root in relationship to Krishna, that all the gopis have a unique raga. They have a unique emotional expression, a unique emotional relationship with Krishna. And every living entity has a unique emotional relationship with Krishna. So all the arts are actually expressions of that, including drama. Drama is an incredibly potent way of connecting to the subject matter. I remember I was in a play by His Holiness Bhaktimarga Swami. And Bhaktimarga Swami is famous for two things. One is for walking everywhere around. He's walked across all of Canada several times. He walked across the United States once. He came through Denver Temple when we were there. It was great. We got to see him. He's walked across a couple other countries too, chanting everywhere he goes and just meeting people and starting conversations. Because when you see someone walking through your country and he's like, yeah, I'm doing the whole country, and he's chanting a mantra, it starts conversations. The other thing he's famous for is he has a dramatic background in theatrical arts, and so he's put on several plays. I actually acted in a couple of them because he takes amateur actors, like I had no training, and he trains them how to actually act in the Leela. So the first verse I ever learned of the Bhagavad Gita, I learned by being in a play. Because when you move your body and you use music and you use, like you're acting cooperatively, these are all things that deeply cement memory, right? And if you just witness that, it's very powerful. Just like you can put anything to a jingle and it becomes automatically more memorable than if you just wrote it down, right? Homer's Odyssey was spoken in a song. That's why Homer actually memorized, whoever Homer was, the historical speaker of the Odyssey, memorized it because it was in meter. It's a lot easier for the mind to memorize anything. So the content of that story became memorized in his heart because that was a memorized thing. It wasn't written down. Similarly, if you put anything to music, if that music is like especially relevant to the expression you're going through in the content of the song, right? The actual written, like the poem that's written down, it'll stick with you. So drama is an example of like dancing, music, cooperation, sometimes audience participation. You have like clothing, you have props, all these things at the same time. It's a deeply, deeply touching experience. And the proliferation of the entertainment industry is just proof of that. We need it. We're made for Leela, actually. We're made for pastimes. And anybody who denies this is not even looking at their own life and the society we're in. Any society we've been in. Every society revolves around stories. They revolve around theater and music and drama and like what do you do at night? You get together and the best storyteller tells a story and we all just sit there and listen, right? That's what we're made for. And so this what the gopis are doing is their recourse when Krishna left is just recounting his activities and being with him in that sound vibration and that visual expression and that acting out. And what they do at the end, you just had a kirtan. Because what else can you do, you know? And that's like, okay, I'm not Radharani, I'm not a gopi, I'm not there. But if you want Krishna and you're feeling like you're not with him, that's the process. Have a kirtan. Like just call out his name. That's where you can put that energy of like, I really want to know you, I really want to see you, as George Harrison put in My Sweet Lord. When you feel that in your heart, have a kirtan. And if you want to make it like next level, get yourself together with your friends and organize a play where you can act out Krishna's pastimes. It's totally legit.
It's the next step for the.
It's next step.
song that-
Next step. It takes a lot of work. Long hours practicing that play, but it was beautiful. I still remember every scene I was in. And I was like a bit player, you know, but it was great. And that's the whole point, isn't it? To remember Krishna. So all the arts are really there to reconnect us. Thank you. Any other reflections, comments, questions? Otherwise, we'll go to chapter 31.
I like the part where Prabhupada explains like I'm looking for the exact spot, but that's the process of bhakti. Like we may be envious of someone else at first, but then we have compassion, sympathy, you know, empathy,
Yeah.
compassion for them. And again, it comes back to like, oh, I can relate to that. You know, like, oh, I can relate to that demon. I can relate to that feeling of
Competitiveness.
yeah. And it's sort of not that I need permission, you know, to be the way that I am. However, it's like, oh, validating, like,
Totally.
okay, I'm not the only one that experiences that. And
Yeah.
that's a part of the process of bhakti.
Yeah. Sometimes the question comes up, is there competitiveness in spiritual life? And the answer is basically here in the Leela, and Prabhupada is taking it up for us, and I'll just discuss that a little bit as well. So under the modes of nature, what we see as competitiveness is based on the root. If you boil it right down, it's rooted in the idea that I'm separate from everything and everyone, and I'm the center. And almost nobody will actually come out and say that because it sounds hideous when you just put it on paper. In black and white, it sounds actually insane to think that. But we actually hold that opinion about ourselves, that misunderstanding, egoistically. That's the root cause of all competitiveness, is that me, not them. And it's also the other aspect of that that's necessary is limited resources. You have to have limited resources. And the material world is a place of limited resources, limited time, limited matter. And so those two things, limited resources and I am the owner and controller, creates competitiveness. So what we see in spiritual life is that, first of all, it's not limited, it's unlimited. And second of all, although there is a sense that everyone has a sense of like, I want to serve Krishna this way, and this is what will please him, this is the best for him. They all have that like feeling, because they are still individuals. We don't just merge and lose our individuality. Nobody is actually resentful of anyone else's service, ultimately. Ultimately, everyone is appreciative of everyone else's service. And when it comes down to it, there's no like butting of heads among pure devotees. It's just like, even if there's a difference in mode and mood, it's like, wow, look how they're serving Krishna. That's great, right? I should serve him so nicely. What can I learn from that?
Inspire.
There's inspiration. There's a feeling of like, wow, Krishna's really blessed them. He must really, as the gopi said, she must be wonderful. She must be amazing that Krishna would actually be with her one-on-one after he left us. She's got to be really special. There's a recognition of the greatness. Jiva Goswami puts it this way, that envy, ultimately, like jealousy, envy, he says it boils down to the inability to tolerate the greatness of another. That's what envy actually is. The inability to tolerate someone else's greatness. On the other end, you're not just tolerating someone's greatness, you're like swimming in it. You're appreciating it. Like, if you're able to look at someone's greatness and be like, wow, I could write a song about this. This is actually amazing. You are so, look at you, you know, and you're just glorifying them and you're so proud of them and you're so happy for them. You're safe. You're in a good place. That's what spiritual community is like. The gopis, or any devotee are appreciating everyone else's service to Krishna, trying to bring other people into the service, to more service for Krishna, feeling that everyone else's service is better than their own, and their service is very insignificant, and they're just taken by the greatness of other people's devotion and the devotional service performed, and there's no sense of like, that I'm better than that. That's the difference between material and spiritual competitiveness. It's like one wants to express their relationship with Krishna. One is like eager for it, and in the face of other devotion, is like, that's so great. That's also wonderful. That's very inspiring. What can I learn from that? You know, just because that question, like, as always comes up,
Yeah.
competitiveness. Yeah. Yeah. You guys, are you all ready to move to chapter 31?
Yeah.
And then we'll pause again for more questions, comments, reflections. I think we can get through this. 2 chapters. Feels like a 2-chapter kind of day.
Mhm.
Chapter 31, Songs by the Gopis. One gopi said, "My dear Krishna, ever since you took your birth in this land of Vrajabhumi, everything appears to be glorious. The land of Vrindavan has become glorious, and it is as if the goddess of fortune is personally always existing here. But it is only we who are very unhappy, because we are searching for you but cannot see you with our greatest effort. Our life is completely dependent upon you. Therefore, we request that you again come to us." Another gopi said, "My dear Krishna, you are the life and soul, even of the lotus flower that grows on the water of lakes made transparent by the clear rains of autumn. Although the lotus flowers are so beautiful, without your glance they fade away. Similarly, without you, we are also dying. Actually, we are not your wives, but are your slaves. You never spent any money for us, yet we are simply attracted by your glance. Now, if we die without receiving your glance, you'll be responsible for our deaths. Certainly, the killing of women is a great sin. And if you do not come to see us and we die, you will suffer the reactions of sin. So please come see us. Do not think that one can be killed only by certain weapons. We are being killed by your absence. You should consider how you are responsible for killing women. We are always grateful to you because you have protected us many times. From the poisonous water of the Yamuna, from the serpent Kaliya, from Bakasura, from the anger of Indra and his torrents of rain, from the forest fire, and so many other incidents. You are the greatest and most powerful of all. It is wonderful for you to protect us from so many dangers, but we are surprised that you are neglecting us at this moment. Dear Krishna, dear friend, we know very well that you are not actually the son of Mother Yashoda or the cowherd man Nanda Maharaj. You are the supreme personality of Godhead and the supersoul of all living entities. You have, out of your own causeless mercy, appeared in this world, requested by Lord Brahma for the protection of the world. It is by your kindness only that you have appeared in the dynasty of Yadu. O best in the dynasty of Yadu, if anyone afraid of this materialistic way of life takes shelter at your lotus feet, you never deny them protection. Your movements are sweet, and you are independent, touching the goddess of fortune with one hand, and in the other bearing a lotus flower. That is your extraordinary feature. Please, therefore, come before us, and bless us with the lotus flower in your hand. Dear Krishna, you are the killer of all the fears of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. You are the supremely powerful hero, and we know that you can kill the unnecessary pride of your devotees, as well as the pride of women like us, simply by your beautiful smile. We are simply your maidservants and slaves. Please therefore accept us by showing us your beautiful lotus-like face. Dear Krishna, actually we have become very lusty, having been touched by your lotus feet. Your lotus feet certainly kill all kinds of sinful activities of devotees who have taken shelter there. You are so kind that even the ordinary animals take shelter under your lotus feet. Your lotus feet are also the residence of the goddess of fortune, yet you danced on the heads of the Kaliya serpent with them. Now we are requesting you to kindly place your lotus feet on our breasts and pacify our lusty desire to touch you. I'm just reading.
Yeah.
O Lord, your attractive eyes, like the lotus, are so nice and pleasing. Your sweet words are so fascinating that they please even the greatest scholars, who also become attracted to you. We are also attracted by your speaking and by the beauty of your face and eyes. Please therefore satisfy us by your nectarian kisses. Dear lords, words spoken by you, or words describing your activities, are full of nectar, And simply by speaking or hearing your words, one can be saved from the blazing fire of material existence. Great devotees like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are always engaged in chanting the glories of your words. They do so to eradicate the sinful activities of all living entities in the material world. If one simply tries to hear your transcendental words, he can very quickly be elevated to the platform of pious activities. For the Vaishnavas, your words give transcendental pleasure, and saintly persons who are engaged in distributing your transcendental message all over the world are first-class charitable persons. In bracket, this is a comment by Prabhupada. This was confirmed by Rupa Goswami when he addressed Lord Chaitanya as the most munificent incarnation. Munificent is not used so often as a word. It means like generous. Most munificent incarnation because he distributed the words of Krishna and love of Krishna free of charge all over the world. Dear Krishna, the gopis continued, you are very cunning. You can imagine how much we are distressed simply by remembering your cunning smile, your pleasing glance, your walking with us in the forest of Vrindavana, and your auspicious meditations. Your talks with us in lonely places were heartwarming. Now we are all aggrieved to remember your behavior. Please save us. Dear Krishna, certainly you know how much we are saddened when you go out of Vrindavan village to tend the cows in the forest. How we are afflicted simply to think that your soft lotus feet are being pricked by the dry grass and the tiny stones in the forest. We are so attached to you that we always think simply of your lotus feet. There is a few sections in the Bhagavatam where pure devotees are like meditating on, I hope wherever Krishna is walking, he's not stepping on anything. His feet are so soft. They couldn't bear the idea, Mother Yashoda would also talk in this way, like, Krishna, you should wear shoes when you go out there. Because Vrindavan is a natural, rustic, people don't really wear shoes. But the love for Krishna means love is in the details, as they say. They're thinking of these details. So Mother Yashoda would be like, you should wear shoes. And you know what Krishna would say? He would say, I'll wear shoes when the cows wear shoes. They don't need to wear shoes, so I won't wear shoes. He's thinking of his own devotees. If they can do it, I can do it. But the gopis are like that. They're thinking, his feet are too soft. He'll hurt himself. Oh Krishna, when you return from the pasturing ground with the animals, we see your face covered by your curly hair and dusted by the hoof dust of the cows. We see your mildly smiling face, and our desire to enjoy you increases. Oh dear Krishna, you are the supreme lover, and you always give shelter to surrendered souls. You fulfill everyone's desire. Your lotus feet are worshipped even by Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe. On whoever worships your lotus feet, we without a doubt always bestow your benedictions. So kindly be pleased with us and keep your lotus feet on our breasts and thus relieve our present distresses. Dear Krishna, we are seeking your kisses, which you offer even to your flute. The vibration of your flute enchants the whole world and our hearts also. Kindly therefore return and kiss us with your mouth of nectar. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 31st chapter of Krishna, Songs by the Gopis. Haribol. Hare Krishna. Let's take comments, questions, reflections.
Can you just frame out too how this isn't a sexual description, even though if you were just listening to for the first time or just reading, that sounds it.
Yeah, as the Chaitanya Charitamrita explains, Atmendra priti vancha thare balikam, Krishnendra priti ichha thare prem nam. That the desire to satisfy one's own senses is called kama. Kama means selfish desire. The only equivalent word that we have in English is lust, but it's not even necessarily carnal or sexual. Any selfish desire to please your own senses. That's kama, the Sanskrit word, selfish desire, selfish lust. And Krishnendra priti ichha, the desire to please Krishna's senses, is prema. Because living entity has senses, ultimately. Not just in our material conditioned life do we have senses. It's not just an artifact, a coincidence of our material existence. And when we become pure, we transcend that. We don't have any senses. We become senseless, inanimate, like a stone. That's not perfection. Ultimately, we're living entities, spiritual entities, not bound by time. We don't have birth and death. And we have the capacity to feel. We have the capacity to experience. And that experience is there because we're part and parcel of the supreme person, the supreme experiencer, the supreme, what's the word? There's a particular word I'm looking for. A living entity has senses. They're called,
Sentient.
yeah, sentient. Thank you. Sentient. From the Latin sentire, it means to feel, right? You're sentient, you have consciousness. Krishna is conscious, so are we. So in the spiritual, in the perfectional form, we're exchanging, we're giving and receiving. And it's not that the gopis are thinking like, oh, I can't wait. You know, like someone could read this and think, oh, I know what that's like. I've missed my lover or whatever. I've missed, this, or I've been hungry. I know what that's like to want something. It's not that. It's not for your senses. It's not material experience. What the gopis had experienced with Krishna, they had experienced by virtue of their pure love for him. They had experienced the giving and receiving with the supremely attractive. Krishna is the source of all beauty. That's why there's beauty in the creation, because Krishna himself is the source, is the reservoir of all beauty. They were with the supremely playful, the supremely funny, the supremely wonderful, the source of all playful, wonderful, amazing experiences in human personal form before them. And having had that, they lost it. And so now they're calling out to him. But the very qualification for having that in the first place was that they reposed their love completely on him. They were completely pure in their dedication to him. It's not coincidental that they were in Vrindavan when Krishna appeared, that part of the world. They were there because they have that pure love for Krishna. And their activities demonstrate that throughout their lives. All the residents of Vrindavan are completely dedicated to Krishna. They have no other shelter. When things go wrong, they chant his names. When things go right, they just recount his pastimes. What did he do today? This is the perfectional stage. So it's not like somebody missing something because they had it and they lost it. It's not a material experience. They're thinking about Krishna, talking about Krishna, recounting about Krishna is also an experience of being with him in the form of his sound vibration. They're naturally going to him. And that's available on the absolute platform because Krishna, the absolute person, is not different from the sound vibration about him, right? That's why we chant his names. There's actually an experience of communion in that, even though in another way, we're not with Krishna. He's not looking at us face to face, but because he's absolute, the chanting of his pastimes, the chanting of his names, his association through his devotees gives us that feeling of communion. And so that's there. And also it's critically important to understand that they're not just like love-struck teenage girls or whatever. They're pure devotees. And Krishna is the only object of their love. It's not conditional. He's not the flavor of the month. Everything material is just the flavor of the month, ultimately. Really, it is. Because if you look at it from a long enough time scale, you weren't interested in it once. And one day you won't be interested in it again. That material object that you think you love is just passing through time. And that object that you're using to so-called love it, your own material mind, is also subject to time and all the modes of nature. And so that's not really love. That's conditional. Because they've satisfied my senses right now, and I identify with those senses, I think that I love that. Meanwhile, we don't even know that. We don't even know what the sentient being is behind that body or whatever. So it's not that. That's not what the gopis have with Krishna. They actually are in communion with the divine person, as we can all be. We all can have that. So, yeah, it's a very deep topic because somebody can misunderstand that. And at the same time, if you're not there yet, like I'm not there yet, hearing about Krishna, developing feeling for him and putting that feeling, reposing that feeling in him is actually a very bona fide way of developing bhakti. Is that like, if you like music, try getting attached to kirtan. If you like food, try offering nice food to Krishna and getting attached to prasad. There's a way in which that's just what bhakti is. So if you find pictures of Krishna like kind of attractive, he's kind of mysteriously beautiful, that's good. That's spiritual personalism. We're all falling in love with Krishna in our own ways. And here's a glimpse into what it's like to be fully in love with Krishna. This is what that looks like. Even from our perspective, that I can't relate to that. I'm not in love with Krishna. I'm not like on the spiritual platform. I have all my conditions. I'm so attached to my body. I think I am this. I think I am that. Still, hearing this with the understanding that it's coming from a higher place is very purifying. It's granting us bit by bit, like a little bit of access to that consciousness, There's something descending in that sound vibration of hearing the gopis experience. Thank you.
I had
More
to smile. I I had to smile. And I don't know if anyone else's brain went there, but in that one section where the gopis are, you know, being extra, and it seems like the origin of the dramatic guilt trip. You know, if you don't come
Oh
back,
yeah,
we're just gonna die. I don't know. I just had to giggle about that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they actually feel like they're gonna die too. They're actually like, I can't live without you, Krishna. You don't want to do that to me. Maybe you don't realize what you're doing right now. Maybe you didn't realize how attached I am to me. I didn't even realize it, but I think I'm gonna die right now. So please don't do that to us, and don't do it to yourself, because you're gonna have to. You're gonna be known as a woman killer. Your reputation will be ruined. So yeah, there's this way in which it's like, don't do that, Krishna. So the dramatic guilt trip, but it's the pure form of that. There's no like, when we talk guilt trip, we're talking about like our understanding of guilt trip is like using guilt to leverage getting what you want out of a situation. It's like it's a very low level kind of. It's clever, but it's not exactly spiritual. It's not exactly like a high level activity. It's actually tamas. It's actually like how can I exploit or manipulate the situation. But the pure form of that is evident here. Yeah. They actually were feeling like they're going to die. And so they're thinking, I don't want Krishna to be guilty of having killed women. Maybe he doesn't even know we're going to die. Krishna, don't you know we're going to die? Yeah. There's a sweetness to it and a cleverness. More reflections, questions, comments, anything that stood out? I have one. These paragraphs in this chapter are all specific. They're all one verse, 1-to-1. And one of them I recognize because it's very famous, because it's a verse that comes up in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because it's quoted to Lord Chaitanya when he's in a very love intoxicated place. It's after Rath Yatra, actually. He's really thinking deeply of Krishna. And one devotee comes to him and speaks this verse, Tavakatamritam tapta jivanam kavibiritam kalmashapaham shavanamangalam shrimadattatam pavigranantiye puridajana. All these verses are in that beautiful meter. And that meter is actually representative of separation too, musically. And so that verse, what Prabhupada translates is the sound vibration of your name and activities spoken about you are they're kata amrita, they're the nectar of all discussions. They relieve all sufferings. When Lord Chaitanya heard this verse, he became very joyful. So it's a famous verse in our movement. And the verse says that the songs about you, your name itself, these discussions, they're the nectar that relieves of us of all suffering and anxiety. Those who share these are to be known as the most munificent, most generous, most compassionate people in the world. Those who share the sound vibration of your name and your own pastimes. That's what the gopis are saying when they're missing him, because that's all they have is just songs and words and memories, and they don't just keep it in them. It comes out practically by force. They're all just singing about him and talking about him as they were acting about him. And so they're recounting, as they're doing, the very powerful effect of kirtan. And they're saying, this is the medicine. And those who actually give it are the greatest, most munificent persons. And that's really emblematic of the Krishna consciousness movement, because that's what Lord Chaitanya did. And that's what he wants us to do, because he's giving that gift of whoever you are, wherever you are, take that gift. Get some Krishna conscious sound vibration. Receive that. Let it melt your heart a little bit, and become empowered to give it to others. Right? Become empowered to give it to others. You were saying, Tanya, that Frank was asking you questions about Bhagavad Gita, and you were thinking, well, I've heard this, and so I'm now qualified to talk about it. And isn't that wonderful? And it takes two. You can't have a hearer without a speaker. And who is a speaker but somebody who's heard before from an authorized source? They're just representing that. So that's the gift of Lord Chaitanya, whether you're hearing or you're speaking, or you're neither. You're just like in the middle of that vibration as it's going between the speaker and the hearer. You just happen to get in the way. You get purified by that. there's a way in which that sound vibration, that's what the Krishna conscious movement is. That's what Lord Chaitanya's mood and method is. And that verse by the gopis really exemplifies that. And I was just appreciating how all the way up into the most exalted realms of Krishna Lila, we have this principle. The gopis are like glorifying Sankirtan. They're glorifying those who try to go out of their way to give Krishna a little bit, because they're dying for him in separation. And actually we all are. We're all dying without Krishna. We're all like trying to fill that gap with bags of chips and dust in the wind. it ain't working. And so the gopis are they're in that deep realization. It's a spiritual, it takes actually spiritual vision to see that. So they're giving us their spiritual vision to actually let us see like how much it's necessary to have Krishna, because they know that, because they miss him. And so there's a very deep relationship between that verse and the mood of Lord Chaitanya. It comes out in a particular chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I was remembering, because I recognize the translation, because it's a famous verse. That's my reflection. So, yeah. Let's hear from you. Anyone else? Because I don't think we're going to get through another chapter in the next 5 minutes. It's 7:55. So let's keep churning. If anyone has any more churning.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Before, when you were talking about the sentire, from the Latin,
Yeah.
to feel, what did you say before that?
Sentient. That because we're sentient living entities, I think was in the context of I was talking about the dramatic arts and arts in general, because we're all sentient living entities. We don't just have senses in our conditioned state. In our spiritual perfectional state, we also have senses. We can relate and connect and experience. And so we're made for that. And if we don't have spiritual sense objects, if we're not relating to Krishna, we'll just relate to matter. And that's degrading and unfortunate. But we need to connect, and we need to have variety. We need to have detail. There needs to be a face.
About the difference between kama and prema.
Oh yeah, the difference between selfish desire and spiritual desire. So the gopis, or any pure devotee, are eager for satisfying the beautiful senses of Krishna. They want him to feel good. They have that giving spirit, that service spirit, right? Which you've all been glorifying, because you're talking about what it felt like to work up to this great Sankirtan festival that we had. That spirit of giving is what we're made for. That's who we are. We're little givers. And when you give to the supreme receiver, Krishna, when you give to the supreme beloved, you experience the results of that in a way that's really different than just giving in a material context. And I would also say even just giving is better than receiving. They say that because it's true even materially. There's a way in which even if you don't know who the supreme is, if you just want to give and you just try to give, it's actually a higher way of living than being a selfish schmuck. So sentire, yeah.
So going back to sentire, I must have zoned out, was moving boxes or something, and then like I perked up at some linguistics or something, and I heard about the Latin, and I was thinking that in Italian and probably in Latin too, I don't know, sentire means to feel but also to hear. So they use the same verb, and I was just thinking about it.
Wow.
Too, because we don't, it's, and you can easily distinguish, because my students are always like, well, how do you know? Like, you just like know the difference when you're talking about like feeling something versus hearing something. But I was just thinking about what you were saying, because hearing is such a passive, it's passive, just like being the receiver of the present is, you're the passive one, you're not the giver, and you're not the speaker, you're the hearer.
Even the sound vibration to someone else. You're like actually holding space for it.
Yeah, that's really, and I think we sort of diminish the importance of that, that's why I think it's so interesting that, we kind of ignore, the sense, we're like touch and taste heavy, usually in sight, but like the hearing aspect is really fascinating.
That's a very interesting tidbit. I didn't know that about Italian. I don't know if it's the same in Latin. Audire means to hear. That's where we get the word audio. Audio is Latin, literally Latin for I hear. But yeah, to hear is to feel. Yeah, it's the most subtle of the senses. The physics and metaphysics of the second and third canto talk about the different senses. Hearing is the most subtle of them. It's related to the ether element, and it's the primary method for receiving knowledge, actually, especially knowledge of those things that are transcendent. You can see the Krishna's form, but if you don't actually hear about him, you'll just think he's kind of a blue-looking guy or whatever. You actually have to hear. Just like if you've never been to Madagascar, you have to hear there's a place called Madagascar. Someone has to explain it to you. So hearing is actually the most authorized form of receiving knowledge of that which is beyond our experience, and it's glorified heavily in our, not to use a fancy word, but epistemology, the science, the philosophy, how you know what you know and how to receive knowledge. Hearing is the most authorized way to do so. If you hear from the source, who's the proper source, one who knows themselves. So I guess the Italians were onto something with that.
It's interesting then that the last sense to go when you're leaving your body is hearing.
Yeah, that's true. When you go into a coma or you lose consciousness or you're leaving your body, you're dying. It's scientifically established by experience, but that's the last sense you have any connection to this world is through hearing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever come across somebody who's falling unconscious, keep chanting for them because they can hear it. You know, and they'll tell you when they come back. It's happened many times.
About anything from Aaron or reading?
So Kishore is specifically asking for reflections from Aaron or Rini. What did you hear?
Just in general, going back to what you said at the very beginning, I think, you know, this class, every time we're together at the wedding, you know, it all comes back to love. And that after the wedding, a mutual friend of Kishori and I was asking me about the wedding and some of the pictures, you know, and it just led to a really sweet conversation about what is bhakti, you know, and just being able to boil it down into something that she could understand and relate to and resonate just was confirmation, right? Like just reassurance, confirmation, the joy, the seeing everyone come together from all walks of life and all generations and being willing to embrace something new. It was all for love.
Yeah.
And I understand it's, you know, love for Krishna, but at the end of the day, it was love for the two of you. And it's just like for me, it's just giving me a renewed way to look at everything that's
Yeah.
that's transpired in the last few years.
Well, love for Krishna includes love for his devotees. It's not that you can't have one without the other. And I really appreciate that kind of boiling it down to the essence. If somebody asks what bhakti is, you could say, well, bhakti is loving God and living your life in such a way that it's a reflection of that love of God in all of your other relationships. So it is really simple. It is really like childlike, and it's not complicated. And there's the world's greatest and most deep, complicated philosophy to substantiate it and back it up. If one wants to go there, it's great. But if someone's like the elevator pitch, that's a really good way to go. Bhakti is the science of an art of living with love, directed to God and in our lives. Thank you.
I was talking with Rukmini Devi today, and one of the last things I was glorifying her, she was glorifying me, you know, and she said, the more you give love, the more you get love. Dr. George Harrison.
The more you give love, the more you get love.
Yeah, and we're practicing that.
Yeah.
Love, 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 love,
Love, love, love.
Yeah.
All you need is love.
Thanks, Dr. George.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rini, your daughter is asking if you have any reflections. You're muted. Can you unmute yourself or? Yeah.
Our computer died.
Can I actually unmute them? I don't think I can. I think you need to unmute Rini, but if you're going to say
You
speaking,
should be able to.
I can ask to unmute.
You can ask to unmute. Click that. Yeah.
There you go.
I got it. Oh, boy, that was tough. Okay. Oh boy. Yeah. Um, I
I miss you,
I,
Rini.
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I was wowed. My whole family was wowed by what we witnessed for the wedding. The love was just so deep and just so natural. And I know it was Krishna love. And I mean, I just, I say God a lot, but like I felt Krishna so much, um, just everywhere in everyone. And I think it was, I mean, I knew a little bit, but to experience really seeing people serving
Yeah.
you both was just so humbling and so, I mean, I'm a mom. I did that for my children, right? But like, wow, it was just so beautiful to witness, and so much that my husband John too. I mean, Johnny, he really was just, his heart was just so open, and he was just so grateful. And I, I don't, I don't think he had any idea that it was going to be, you know, I mean, it was just amazing. And what we witnessed, and how good all of the people there, like you said, Aaron, just of all different backgrounds and ages, and just so anyway, Johnny and I mean, I've thought about it a lot, and we're going to go to New York City. We booked 2 nights in the city
Yeah.
to go to the
Yeah.
well,
It's called the
Johnny
Rock and Roll.
jokes he calls it the traffic pull, but I know it's the chariot pull. Anyway, so we're excited about that, and to see everybody again.
Yeah, that's
And
fantastic.
yeah,
Well,
we're excited. And then I don't know, I was talking with Allison, and I just missed it. Like I felt like I needed to be around more, be around all of you, and hearing Krishna's pastimes and chanting more. And so I was like, what are you doing? Allison,
you've understood.
something, and so yesterday said, oh, I want to join. I want to do it. So I ordered the Krishna book. It'll be here next week, but I followed along on the, online. And anyway, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, we actually had a festival of bhakti. That's what we did.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and the really amazing, awesome, great, super wonderful news is that no one has to get married for that to happen. You can have that all the time, because don't get me wrong. It was we're never for the rest of our lives ever going to forget the days of going up to, and every moment of it was irreplaceable. And what's also true is we're having another festival tonight. This has been a festival of hearing and chanting.
I know.
And, all of us in Sangha here are doing what the gopis are encouraging us to do. They're doing what Prabhupada is encouraging us to do, what Lord Chaitanya gave us. We're having a little festival. We're not going to necessarily cook a giant feast right now and get together, although it's not a bad idea. Have a fire yagya, but these hearing and chanting festivals and all the other related activities, deity worship, cooking, flower arrangements, drama, kirtan, musical, serving the devotees, guests, dressing up nicely, all the different arts and crafts and different, aspects of human life. When you put Krishna in the middle, there's an irreplaceable festival that happens.
Right.
And
other
that, you don't want to ever stop having that. You want to keep having that.
When you said that, like I felt like Krishna was just, or it was just, I wasn't worried about anything. I just knew it was all going to be beautiful and all come together. And it just was, we've never witnessed anything like it. We really haven't. Johnny and I were just, oh my gosh, just awed, in awe like the whole
Yeah.
time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing that, and for being there, and for everything, and for being who you are. And just, I think the note to conclude on is that we're all going to keep the festivals going, in person and online, and on YouTube, and we're always going to be connected by that sound. And stay tuned for more Bhakti festivals. You know,
Yeah.
now that we know you're capable of it, we're gonna have more week-long giant.
Stages every day too.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. On that note, we read chapters 30 and 31. So for those following at home, please read chapters 30 and 31 Krishna book if you haven't already. Please comment in the WhatsApp group if you as you're reading along, any comments, questions, reflections. Sundar Ananda, have your hand up. Go ahead. Just keep it real quick. We're gonna.
Yes, I'll keep it. I just want to mention that the comment, I don't know who made it, Tanya or someone, about binge reading. I think that's actually, it goes well with this theme, where I believe that Prabhupada says, reading about these chapters about the gopis, the seemingly lustful exchanges actually will take care of the lust within our heart.
Right.
So back to what you were saying about lust in general. So I was just thinking.
Absolutely. That's a verse that's directly spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, Canto 10, chapter 33. So probably next week we'll get to that verse in translation. Yeah. Thank you. So keep reading. Just keep reading. All right. On that note, see you in WhatsApp. See you on YouTube. See you for chapter 32 next week. And Krishna book, cohort number 2, Ki Jai.
Jai.
Krishna. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
You know, Kishore and I would just read on our own if you weren't all here, but the fact that you are makes it really a festival. So thank you for making it outstanding with your presence, you know, live or after the fact, you know, on WhatsApp, your attentive ears. It really makes it into a real party. Tuesday night's the place to be.
Transcendental Rager.
Haribol.
Haribol, everybody.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much. Hare
Mm.
Krishna.